and taking notes. They're very similar, but there's an important distinction. So indexing is you're writing a lot less. So basically, you're going to, as you're reading the paragraph, as you're reading the passage, you're going to write down certain things that maybe stick out to you. And so the thought here is that it jogs your memory of that specific paragraph so that you know when you see that word, you remember what that passage is about. So then when you're answering the questions, instead of having to go back and reread the whole entire passage to try to find the answer, you can just go back to one specific paragraph and find the answer in there. So it's going to save you time that way. So another thing is underlining, like bracketing, maybe using like stars as you're going along, like pulling out the important information. That's also going to help you. It's making sure that you're understanding it because you're able to pick out what the important parts are in each paragraph. And I'm not going to practice doing indexing just by itself, just because what I put down might not be the same thing that you guys put down, and that's totally okay. So like it's different for each person because if I write down a word and that reminds me of the paragraph, maybe you see that word and it does not remind you of the paragraph at all, and so that doesn't help you at all. And so it just needs to be something that's going to help you specifically. So again, it might not be the same thing that the person sitting next to you will write down. It's just kind of for you. And then the difference between taking notes is kind of like reading it and then writing down, like kind of summarizing it, but you're going into more detail. And so taking notes, number one, is going to take too much time. You don't have enough time to do that when you're taking the test. And then secondly, studies have also shown that taking notes does not help students when they're taking a standardized test, just because taking notes helps you more with your long-term memory, whereas like with the ACT, you don't have to remember this information ever again. It's like a week after you take the test, you don't need to know this information anymore. You just need to know it 5 minutes later when you're answering the questions. So you want something that's going to help with your short-term memory, which indexing has been found to do. So I'm going to walk around and show you guys kind of like an example of what this looks like. I write down multiple things per paragraph, but it's like, so maybe I read the first part of the paragraph, the first couple sentences, and I find a word that summarizes it for me. And then as I read on, it kind of switches a little bit. Talks about something else, and so then I write another thing down. So this just is to give you an example of what it might look like, just because it's not something that you're typically used to doing. And again, you're not writing a lot. You're just doing like short words, or maybe like a short phrase, just a couple words at a time. Whatever helps you remember what that paragraph is about. Can you see this? Sorry. And then the thing with underlining and making notes in it, it's kind of similar to people who use highlighters when they're reading to pull out important information. But with the ACT, you're only allowed to have a pencil. Like you can't use a highlighter or a pen or anything else. So that's just kind of another way to pull out the important information without having a highlighter or a different color to pull that out. So, are there any questions about indexing or any of the information that I have gone through with reading so far? Okay.